He thought she was gone forever, but when he finds her singing on a cruise ship under a new identity, the truth of her mysterious past comes to light. Love, danger, and a sacrifice that could change everything. Will their reunion be the beginning of a second chance, or will the secrets between them tear them apart? Alex had always believed that love, the real, deep kind that strikes like a lightning bolt and forever changes your life, was rare. But when he met Lily, he realized that kind of love wasn't just the stuff of novels and movies. It was real, and it was theirs. She had a laugh that felt like sunshine on a winter morning, and eyes that sparkled with a mischievous glint whenever she caught him staring. They dreamed of a life together, a life full of adventures, with a promise to never let each other go. They talked about sailing the Mediterranean, hiking the misty trails of the Pacific Northwest, and dancing under the stars on some distant, white sand beach. But one chilly autumn evening, everything changed. Alex had returned to their tiny, cozy apartment to find Lily's things gone. Her clothes, her favorite worn-out leather journal, and even the small cactus she insisted on keeping by the window, all of it had vanished. His calls went unanswered, and messages bounced back with a cold, automated response. This number is no longer in service. The echo of her voice in his mind, the lingering scent of her favorite vanilla and jasmine perfume, and the quiet absence of her soft hums around the apartment left Alex spiraling into despair. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Friends tried to comfort him, suggesting that perhaps she simply needed space or time to herself. But Alex knew Lily better than anyone. She wouldn't just walk away without a word, not after everything they had shared. The not knowing was the worst part, a constant gnawing at his heart that kept him up at night and left him staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every whispered promise. He searched, he begged for clues, even went as far as hiring a private investigator, but every lead turned cold, every path led to a dead end. Just as he had started to accept that Lily might truly be gone forever, a spark of hope emerged. Over drinks one evening, a friend pulled up a grainy, slightly shaky video on his phone. It was a cruise ship advertisement, showcasing a glamorous performance on the open seas. But it wasn't the glitzy lights or the sweeping ocean views that caught Alex's attention. It was the singer on stage, her voice smooth and powerful, her presence captivating. Despite the grainy footage, he would recognize that voice anywhere. His heart raced, a mix of fear, hope, and disbelief churning in his chest. Was it really her? Could Lily be alive, living an entirely different life as a cruise ship singer? For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Alex felt something other than numbness. He felt purpose. He felt the stirring of a long-dormant hope, the flicker of a chance to reclaim what he had lost. Without hesitation, he pulled out his laptop and began searching for the cruise line, his mind racing with 1,000 questions and a single burning desire: to find Lily, no matter the cost. The decision came swiftly, almost without thought, as if his heart had seized control of his body. Within days, Alex had booked a ticket on the very same cruise ship where the video had been filmed. The sleek, towering vessel promised a voyage of relaxation and luxury, but for Alex, it felt more like a mission, a desperate gamble. He packed lightly, tossing clothes into his worn-out duffel bag alongside old photographs of Lily, each one a painful reminder of what he was trying to reclaim. As he stepped onto the massive ship, the salty breeze whipped at his face, and the deep rumble of the ship's engines reverberated through the polished steel decks beneath his feet. He took a moment to breathe, steadying his trembling hands. The lobby was a swirling chaos of excited passengers, clinking glasses, and staff offering flutes of champagne. Alex declined, his senses too sharp, his mind too focused to allow for even the slightest distraction. Every corner of the ship held the possibility of her presence. He scanned the crowd, his eyes lingering on every flash of dark hair, every graceful figure in a flowing dress, every smile that might have once belonged to her. He drifted through the halls, past the shimmering pools and bustling bars, his heart thrumming with a mixture of hope and fear. The cruise director's voice echoed through the polished corridors, announcing the evening's entertainment lineup. His heart skipped a beat as he heard it. Tonight, our very own Elena will be performing live in the main lounge. He froze, the name hitting him like a jolt of electricity. Could it be her, hiding behind a new name, a new life? As he made his way to the lounge, he felt like a man possessed, driven by the desperate hope that had once felt so foolish but now seemed tantalizingly close. He took a seat near the stage, his pulse racing as the lights dimmed and the crowd hushed. The spotlight flared, casting a golden glow across the polished stage, and then he saw her, a figure stepping into the light, a microphone clutched in her hand, her eyes closed as if drawing strength from the music. As her voice filled the room, smooth and hauntingly familiar, Alex felt tears prick his eyes. It was her. It was Lily, alive, just a few feet away, singing her heart out to a crowd of strangers. He gripped the arms of his chair, his breath catching in his throat, and for the first time in years, felt the thrill of possibility, of a love not yet extinguished. The music swirled around him like a gentle current, tugging at the edges of Alex's mind. Her voice, unmistakable in its raw power and haunting beauty, washed over the room and brought with it a flood of memories. His heart ached as the song wrapped around him, each note a reminder of the love they had shared, the promise they had made to each other. He could almost see Lily sitting beside him, her fingers gently tapping the table as they made plans for their future, plans that had now crumbled into dust. Her performance was mesmerizing. The stage lights flickered in rhythm with the pulsing beat of the music, and her every movement seemed choreographed to perfection. But it wasn't just her performance that held Alex captive, it was the raw emotion in her voice. The vulnerability. He knew that voice better than his own, and right now, it was full of something new, something darker. It spoke of pain, of loss, of a life lived apart from him. His breath caught in his throat as he realized how much time had passed, how much she had changed. As the last note of the song lingered in the air, Alex found himself unable to tear his gaze away from her. He wasn't sure if she had seen him, but she didn't look in his direction. She had her eyes closed for the entire performance, as if lost in the music, and when it ended, she turned away quickly, making her way backstage without so much as a glance at the crowd. The room erupted in applause, but Alex's clapping was slower, quieter, a silent acknowledgement of the woman he had once loved and lost. The applause faded away, and the crowd dispersed, but Alex remained seated, his mind racing. What was she doing here? Why had she disappeared? And why had she been singing under a different name? The questions piled up, suffocating him with their weight. With shaky hands, Alex reached for his phone. He pulled up the cruise's schedule, checking the lineup for the next night's show. Elena was listed again. He knew he couldn't let this moment slip by. He needed to know why she was here, why she had chosen this life. The following day, Alex wandered the ship with a sense of urgency that he couldn't explain. The waves rocked gently beneath the boat, but his mind felt like a storm. He could hardly focus on the beautiful ocean views or the luxury around him. Every passing moment was consumed by one thought: finding her again. He had tried to approach her after the show, but the backstage area was swarming with staff and other performers. She had disappeared behind a door before he could even take a step toward her. All he had was a lingering sense that she had seen him, but perhaps she wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. In his search for answers, Alex decided to speak with someone who might know Elena better. He found himself in the staff lounge, sitting across from a young woman who worked as a waitress on the ship. After some small talk, he nervously brought up Elena, trying to remain casual, though his heart was racing. "Oh, Elena," the waitress said, her tone becoming more serious. "She's different, you know? She doesn't really talk about her past. Not much, but she's well-liked here. She's always polite, always focused on her performances." Alex's heart sank, but he pressed on. "Do you know how long she's been here? Where she's from?" The waitress hesitated, glancing around before leaning in slightly. "She's been here for a few years now, maybe longer. As for where she's from, I'm not sure. She never says much about her family or life before joining the ship. But I heard a rumor once." Alex's ears perked up. "A rumor? What do you mean?" The waitress lowered her voice, glancing over her shoulder before continuing. "I've heard that she had to leave her old life behind. Something happened, something bad. She cut ties with her past. Some say it was for her safety. Others think she was running from something or someone." The words hit Alex like a punch to the gut. She hadn't just left him. She hadn't just walked away. There was something more to it, something dangerous, something beyond his understanding. He thanked the waitress and wandered the ship aimlessly, his mind whirling. Could it be true? Was Lily hiding from someone? Had the danger she faced been so great that she felt forced to vanish from everything she loved, including him? He was desperate for answers, but part of him feared what he might uncover. Later that night, as the ship gently swayed under the moonlit sky, Alex found himself standing alone at the railing, the cool breeze brushing against his face. His thoughts drifted back to the times when Lily would sit beside him, staring out at the horizon as they talked about their future. How could it have all gone so wrong? The image of her on stage, her eyes closed as she sang, haunted him. He knew he couldn't leave without confronting her, without understanding what had happened to tear them apart. The woman he had once known, the woman he had loved so deeply, was now a stranger standing before him, hiding behind a new identity. But he couldn't give up. Not now. Not when he had finally found her again. Alex could hardly sleep that night. His mind buzzed with the images of Lily, or rather Elena, singing on stage. The evening had left him with a mixture of excitement and dread, and he knew that he couldn't let it go on any longer. He had to see her again. He had to speak with her. The next morning, Alex found himself wandering through the corridors of the cruise ship again, his heart pounding with every step. He had spent most of the night grappling with the weight of his emotions, his longing, his confusion, and the unanswered questions that still loomed over him. Every corner of the ship seemed to be shrouded in mystery. The glitzy interior, the polished decks, the bustling crew, it all felt foreign, as if he were walking through a dream that didn't belong to him. In the afternoon, he spotted her. She was walking toward the bar, a graceful presence among the sea of passengers. He stood frozen in place, unsure of what to do. His breath caught in his chest. There she was, the woman he had loved, standing right in front of him, yet as distant as the farthest star. Without thinking, he moved forward. "Lily," he called, his voice trembling. She froze, her eyes widening in shock, then quickly averted her gaze, as if trying to avoid his recognition. But it was too late. She had heard him. She slowly turned, her face pale, her eyes searching his with an expression that made his heart ache. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The crowd around them seemed to fade away, leaving them standing alone in a bubble of silence. Alex's pulse quickened, but he didn't move. "Alex," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible, as though saying his name was an effort, a weight she hadn't expected to bear again. Her eyes shimmered with a mix of fear and regret, and Alex could see the deep sadness that had etched itself into her features over the years. She didn't speak again, but the unspoken words hung between them like an invisible thread. Alex took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He wanted to rush toward her, to wrap his arms around her, to take away the pain she had been carrying for so long. But he held himself back. He knew that this moment, this reunion, would be anything but simple. "I've been looking for you," Alex said, his voice breaking slightly. "I need to know why you left. Why did you disappear? I thought I lost you forever." Lily's face softened, but her eyes became guarded. She shook her head slowly, as if she couldn't find the right words to explain everything. "It's not that simple," she replied quietly, her voice strained. "You don't know what I was running from, Alex. I couldn't stay. I didn't want to hurt you." Alex felt a wave of emotion crash over him. He had spent so many years wondering, doubting, and longing. And now here she was, so close, but still so distant. "I need to understand, Lily," he whispered. "What happened? Why did you leave me without a trace?" Lily stepped back, her gaze shifting as she struggled with her emotions. "I can't explain everything right now, but I promise I never wanted to leave you. I never wanted to hurt you." With that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd before Alex could say another word. His heart shattered, but he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't giving up. He couldn't. The following days were a blur for Alex. He couldn't stop thinking about the brief reunion with Lily. Every word she had spoken seemed to echo in his mind, leaving him more confused than ever. What was she running from? The questions lingered like an unanswered riddle, and Alex's desperation to understand only grew with each passing hour. He spent the next few days watching her from a distance. Elena, Lily, was always performing, always on stage, captivating the crowd with her voice. It was as if she had become a completely different person, someone who had buried her past deep beneath a new identity. But Alex wasn't about to give up. He knew he had to learn the truth, no matter how painful it might be. On the third day after their brief encounter, Alex took a bold step. He approached one of the crew members he had spoken to earlier and asked for help. The crew member, a young man with dark, tired eyes, seemed hesitant but finally agreed to speak. "She doesn't talk about her past, man," the crew member said, leaning in with a cautious glance around the room. "But we've all heard bits and pieces. I don't know how much is true, but some say she ran away from something dangerous. Someone. She cut ties with her family, her old life, like she was forced to. She changed everything about herself." Alex's heart clenched. The words hit him hard, and he felt as though the ground beneath him had suddenly shifted. It wasn't just that Lily had left. It was that she had been running for her life. Something had happened, something that had made her so terrified for her safety and the safety of everyone she loved that she had to disappear completely. She never told anyone exactly what happened, the crew member continued. But some of us think she's still hiding, not just from her old life, but from someone dangerous. Alex swallowed hard, his mind reeling. Someone dangerous. The words replayed in his head. The realization was dawning on him. Lily hadn't disappeared because she wanted to leave him. She had disappeared because there were forces in her life that had made it impossible for her to stay. He couldn't understand it all just yet, but he knew one thing for sure. Lily wasn't the one who had abandoned him. She had been forced to leave, for reasons far beyond her control. And now that he had found her, he wouldn't let her go again. The days that followed Alex's discovery were heavy with uncertainty. He couldn't shake the feeling that Lily, or Elena as she now called herself, was carrying a burden too heavy to share, and it tore him apart to see her living with that weight. The carefree, spontaneous woman he had once known seemed like a distant memory, replaced by someone who was constantly looking over her shoulder, constantly vigilant, as if danger lurked just beyond the ship's pristine, polished decks. Alex knew he had to be patient. He had no right to push her, no right to demand answers when she had so clearly built a wall around herself. Yet, every moment they were near each other, he saw the quiet sadness in her eyes, the way her smiles never quite reached them, how her laughter no longer rang with the same joy it used to. She was a shell of the woman he had once loved, and that truth was a knife in his chest. The worst part was the silence. She never initiated conversations, never spoke of the past, and avoided any questions Alex tried to ask. She became like a ghost in his life, always present, but unreachable. He'd catch glimpses of her from a distance, walking past with her head down, her eyes focused on something far away, her movements deliberate, careful. She was, in every sense of the word, hiding in plain sight. One afternoon, Alex found himself standing at the bar, nursing a drink he hadn't even ordered, just trying to calm his racing thoughts. He was lost in his mind when he felt a presence beside him. He turned, and there she was, Elena, her eyes avoiding his. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The tension in the air between them felt suffocating, like a rope they both were too afraid to pull on. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, breaking the silence. Her voice was so soft, almost fragile. "I didn't mean to disappear from your life like that. I never wanted to hurt you." Alex's heart fluttered, a wave of hope surging through him. But the words were followed by an apology that didn't answer anything, an apology that only hinted at deeper truths yet to be revealed. "Then why did you leave, Lily? Why didn't you even say goodbye? Why this new life? Who are you running from?" She shook her head, her lips pressed tightly together. "I can't tell you. I'm not the person I used to be, and I'm not sure I ever can be again." She closed her eyes for a brief second, as if searching for something deep within herself. "I'm sorry, but it's not safe for you to know the truth." Alex reached out, gently grabbing her hand, feeling the coldness that radiated from her. "It's never too late for us, you know. I'm not going to let you go again, not like this. Whatever you're running from, we can face it together." She pulled her hand away from his, her eyes flashing with something akin to fear. "No, Alex. You don't understand. I can't let you in. Not this time. You're better off without me." Before he could stop her, she turned and walked away, leaving Alex standing there, paralyzed by her words. It felt as though she had slammed an impenetrable door shut, and no matter how hard he tried to push, he would never be able to break through it. The days turned into weeks, and the tension between Alex and Lily seemed to grow. Every time they crossed paths, there was an unspoken understanding that neither of them could escape. But the wall between them remained strong, and Alex knew that despite everything, Lily was still a stranger to him. She wore her new identity like a cloak, and he couldn't figure out how to peel it away. It was on the night of another performance, however, that Alex finally understood the depth of the transformation she had undergone. The atmosphere in the main lounge was electric, as passengers filled every seat to hear Elena sing once more. The anticipation was palpable, and Alex could barely sit still in his seat, his mind racing with everything he had learned, everything he still didn't know. When Elena stepped onto the stage, the lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the crowd. There was something different about her tonight. Her movements were more fluid, her expression more somber. She seemed to be carrying the weight of the world with every note she sang, her voice echoing through the room with raw emotion. It was as if she was pouring her soul into the song, and for the first time since their reunion, Alex saw her not as the woman who had disappeared, but as the woman she had become. The song she sang wasn't one of the standard cruise performances. This was something deeply personal, something she had written herself. The lyrics were simple but heartbreaking. The melody was slow and mournful, and Alex could hear the pain in every note. The chorus struck him like a punch to the gut. I ran away, I broke your heart, tore us apart, now we're worlds apart. But I'm still here, in every song. I'm still yours, even though I'm gone. It was a confession, a message only he could hear, and as the final notes lingered in the air, Alex felt tears welling up in his eyes. He understood now. She hadn't wanted to disappear. She hadn't wanted to leave him. But something had forced her to run, to hide, and in the process, she had buried herself beneath a new name, a new life, and a new song. As the applause erupted around him, Alex stood, his hands shaking. He knew this wasn't the end of their story. There were still too many questions, too much pain to unravel. But he also knew one thing for certain. He wasn't going to give up on her. He wasn't going to let her carry this burden alone anymore. After the performance, as the crowd dispersed, Alex waited. He waited for her to come out of the backstage area, and when she finally did, she met his gaze with a look that told him everything he needed to know. Let's talk, Alex said, his voice steady, but full of emotion. I know there's more to this, and I'm not going to walk away again. Lily, Elena, looked at him, her eyes brimming with a mixture of relief and terror. And in that moment, Alex knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. The following days were the hardest Alex had ever faced. Every encounter with Lily, or rather Elena, felt like a step closer to unraveling the truth, but also a step further into the abyss of uncertainty. They had shared quiet moments, stolen glances, and brief conversations, but the walls between them remained high and unscalable. Alex knew that Lily was holding back, keeping herself trapped in a prison of her own making. But as much as he longed to break through, he understood that the truth would have to come from her when she was ready. Still, his patience was wearing thin. The sense of helplessness gnawed at him, a constant reminder that he couldn't force her to reveal her secrets, no matter how desperately he wanted to understand. It seemed like every time he got close to uncovering the truth, something would pull her further away, her distance growing even more pronounced. Then came the night that would change everything. Alex stood at the bar, trying to occupy his mind with the distraction of a drink. His thoughts had become a whirlwind of confusion, his emotions like a tide crashing over him again and again. He couldn't shake the image of her singing on stage, her eyes closed as she poured her soul into the song. It was like she was sending him a message, but he couldn't decode it. As if on cue, Elena appeared, walking briskly through the lounge. For a split second, their eyes met. But instead of the usual brief acknowledgement, there was something different in her gaze, something that made Alex's heart race with both fear and anticipation. She wasn't just avoiding him anymore. She was actively pulling away, as though afraid of him getting too close. Lily, Alex called out, his voice louder than he had intended. The bar fell silent, and people turned to look at them, but Alex's eyes were locked on hers. Her expression faltered for a moment, the pain and frustration evident in her eyes. Don't call me that, she whispered, her voice sharp and strained. That person is gone. Elena is who I am now. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, but he stood firm. No, you're still Lily. I can see it. I can feel it. You're not just Elena. You're running, hiding from something. I don't care what it is. I need to know the truth. I can't keep living like this, not knowing what happened, not knowing why you left. Elena shook her head, her eyes filled with panic. She stepped back, her hand reaching for the edge of the bar as if to steady herself. You don't understand, Alex. You don't know what I've been through. Her voice broke, and for the first time, Alex saw the cracks in her facade. The walls she had built around herself were crumbling. I didn't leave you. I had no choice. If I stayed, I would have destroyed you too. Alex's heart lurched at the pain in her voice. What are you talking about? What happened? The silence between them was deafening. Elena's shoulders trembled as she took a deep breath, fighting back tears. I'm not the person you think I am. The person you loved is gone. That's not something I can just undo. Before Alex could respond, she turned and ran, her figure disappearing into the crowd. He stood there, motionless, his mind reeling from the weight of her words. It was clear that something had happened, something so deep, so painful, that it had changed her forever. But he couldn't let her slip away again. He wasn't going to give up on her. Not now, not when she was so close to letting him in. The days after Elena's outburst were filled with an almost unbearable tension. Alex couldn't stop thinking about what she had said, that the person he had loved was gone. The words echoed in his mind like a haunting refrain, but more than that, he knew there was something bigger at play, something she wasn't telling him. His heart ached to see the woman he had once known become a shadow of herself, constantly guarded, always running. He spent the next few days searching for answers, digging into any lead he could find. He spoke with the crew, trying to piece together the story that Elena had been keeping hidden for so long. Most of the crew knew only fragments of her past, whispers of things she had left behind. But Alex knew that he needed to hear the truth from her. There was no other way to move forward. Finally, after days of emotional turmoil and dead ends, Alex received an unexpected call. It was a number he didn't recognize, but he answered it anyway. Alex. The voice on the other end was familiar but rough. It was Elena. Meet me tonight, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll tell you everything, but you need to be ready for what you're going to hear. The connection went dead before Alex could respond, and he stood there for a moment, staring at the phone in his hand. He didn't know what to expect, but he knew this was his chance. This was the moment when the truth would finally come out, and he would either have to accept it or walk away from her for good. That evening, Alex stood outside a small, quiet cafe on the lower deck of the ship. The soft glow of the overhead lights cast a warm, inviting hue over the surroundings, but Alex's nerves were on edge. He had no idea what Elena was about to tell him, but he knew one thing for certain. This would change everything. As he waited, the sound of footsteps approached, and he turned to see her. She was wearing a simple, dark dress that hugged her figure, but there was a solemn expression on her face. She looked as if she had been carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders, and Alex's heart broke for her. Elena, he said softly, stepping toward her. She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I'm sorry for everything, Alex. I never wanted to hurt you. But the truth is, I wasn't just running from my past. I was running from something dangerous. From someone. Alex's breath caught in his throat. He could see that she was trembling, but she wasn't backing down. Tell me, he urged, his voice steady but full of concern. Elena took a deep breath, her eyes meeting his. I didn't leave you because I didn't love you. I left because if I stayed, the people who were after me would have hurt you. I've been living on the run for years. I couldn't let them find me, and I couldn't let them find you. So I made the hardest decision of my life and disappeared. Alex's heart sank as the truth finally started to take shape. It wasn't just about them, it was about survival. And in that moment, Alex knew that no matter what danger still lingered in the shadows, they had a chance to face it together. As Elena spoke, the gravity of her words weighed heavily on Alex's chest. He stood there, in stunned silence, as her story unfolded, revealing the tangled web of secrets she had spent so many years trying to escape. Elena wasn't just running from a bad relationship or a past that haunted her. She was running from a powerful and dangerous force, a criminal syndicate with deep ties to the underworld. They had wanted something from her, something she could never give, and the only way to keep him safe had been to disappear without a trace. I was recruited by them a long time ago, Alex, Elena said, her voice barely audible, tinged with a mixture of regret and sorrow. I was young, naive, and I got involved with the wrong people. I tried to get out, but they wouldn't let me go. They wanted me to be part of something I could never be a part of. I was their pawn. Alex was stunned, his mind racing as he processed what she was saying. Elena had been caught in the grip of a ruthless world, forced into situations she could never have imagined. The person he had known, the lively, passionate woman who had brought so much joy into his life, had been living under the constant shadow of fear, knowing that any moment, everything could fall apart. "So you left?" Alex murmured. "You left because you were afraid they would come after me." "Yes," she whispered, tears now streaming down her face. "I thought if I stayed, they'd hurt you. I couldn't let that happen. I loved you too much, and I knew you deserved a life where you were free from all of this." Alex's heart shattered as he reached out to touch her arm. "But you didn't have to do this alone, Elena. You should have come to me. We could have figured something out together." "I couldn't risk it," she replied, shaking her head as her voice cracked. "If they'd found you, they would have used you against me. They wouldn't have cared. I had to protect you, and the only way I could do that was by disappearing." Alex took a deep breath, struggling to find the words that could ease the hurt, the regret, and the guilt that radiated from Elena. He saw how much pain she had been carrying, how it had shaped every decision she had made since the day she left him. And yet, he couldn't blame her for her choices. He knew, deep down, that she had made the ultimate sacrifice for him. "I don't know what to say," Alex admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "But I need you to know that I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore. Whatever it takes, we can face this together." For a moment, Elena simply stared at him, as if trying to make sense of the words he had just spoken. Her face softened, and she let out a shaky breath, as though a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. But the fear in her eyes was still there, because the danger wasn't gone. They were still at risk, and her past was still coming for her. "Are you sure about this?" Elena asked softly, her voice filled with a mixture of disbelief and hope. "You don't understand what this means. I'm not free. I'm still a target. They could come after both of us." "I don't care about that," Alex said firmly, holding her gaze. "What matters is that you're here now. We can figure out the rest together. We'll protect each other." She swallowed hard, her eyes flickering with the emotions she had been suppressing for so long. "I've spent so many years trying to protect you from all of this. I never wanted to drag you into it. But now, I can't run anymore. I can't hide. I need you, Alex." His hand cupped her cheek gently, his touch warm and reassuring. "I'm not going anywhere," he repeated, his voice unwavering. "We're in this together. Always." Elena's eyes filled with tears as she leaned into his touch, her heart aching from the relief of knowing she didn't have to bear the weight of the world alone anymore. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about trust, about facing the future, and about making a stand against the darkness that had once threatened to tear them apart. But as they stood there, in that quiet moment of understanding, they both knew that their journey was far from over. The threat of Elena's past was still lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next move. But no matter what came next, they would face it together, as a team. With the weight of Elena's past finally out in the open, the two of them stood at a crossroads. They had been through so much already, their lives entangled in a web of secrets, fear, and heartbreak. But now, with the truth laid bare, they found themselves with a choice: to keep running or to finally face the challenges head-on. Alex didn't hesitate for a second. He had spent years wondering what had happened to Elena, why she had disappeared, why she had left him without a word. But now that he knew, now that he understood the sacrifices she had made, he was ready to step into the unknown with her. Together, they could confront the dangers lurking in the shadows. Together, they could rewrite their story. The days that followed were a whirlwind. They carefully planned their next steps, knowing that Elena's past was not something they could outrun forever. The people who had been hunting her were still out there, and they weren't going to let go easily. But Alex was determined to make sure that Elena would never have to face it alone again. They moved quickly, leaving the cruise ship behind and starting fresh in a small, quiet town far from the chaos of their past. It wasn't perfect, and the threat of danger still loomed over them like a cloud, but it was a start. For the first time in years, Elena felt something she hadn't felt in so long: peace. It wasn't just the absence of danger, but the presence of Alex. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't hiding. As the weeks turned into months, their relationship deepened in ways they hadn't expected. The bond between them grew stronger with every challenge they faced, and together, they built a life that was theirs, a life not defined by the past, but by the choices they made in the present. They never knew what the future held, but as they stood hand in hand, looking out over the horizon, they knew one thing for certain. No matter what came their way, they would face it together. It wasn't just a new beginning. It was a second chance, a chance to rewrite their love story, and to finally live the life they had always dreamed of. And in the end, it was enough. As the sun set on their new life, Alex and Elena stood hand in hand, no longer burdened by the weight of their past. The road ahead, uncertain and full of challenges, was one they would face together, side by side. They had learned the true meaning of love, not as a fairy tale, but as something far stronger, forged through pain, sacrifice, and an unbreakable bond. Their journey was far from over, but for the first time, they were ready for whatever came next, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could conquer anything. It was a new beginning, a second chance at love, and a promise to never let go, no matter what. Because in the end, love wasn't just about the destination. It was about the strength to keep moving forward, together. Thank you so much for joining us on this unforgettable journey. We hope you've enjoyed the twists, the turns, and the heartwarming ending of Alex and Elena's story. If you love this tale and want more gripping stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more incredible adventures. And remember, your story is just beginning, too. Keep dreaming, keep loving, and keep watching. See you in the next one.